Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I'm just sitting here drinking my morning coffee. Get sexy while I do it. And it's time to call out some junk science, some garbage that should not be in the headlines. It shouldn't be in the headlines at all. Had a regular poster chime in this morning. He's like, Jason, I'm kind of shocked. There's this story in the headline saying that eating 22% or more of your calories from protein could cause cardiovascular disease. All right, when you go look at this, and it was interesting that some of the rebuttals, even by experts, are like, we have studies showing, like in middle-aged women, just done this year already, large-scale studies that really high protein intakes, whether they're animal or plant, seems to reduce cardiovascular disease and mortality. So what are people talking about? So this is, again, the sort of stuff that shouldn't be in the headlines. Honestly, I don't think anything but a meta-analysis should be in the news. Individual studies, particularly not even really done in humans, should not be in the news headlines, because this is why people say things like, oh, the science just flip-flops all the time, right? You know those people? Because they watch the news. 6-week study done on 12 mice says aspartame causes cancer, Then the headlines would then read something like, aspartame, proven carcinogen. Nonsense like that. This really is that bad. Okay, study done showing that high protein diets, particularly higher in leucine, seems to contribute to cardiovascular disease. They found some extrapolations in blood work to humans given a protein shake on the blood work in raising some specific blood markers that were found to cause atherosclerosis in mice. Now, the suggestion from all of this, let's see why this is ridiculous. The suggestion from all of this is even saying, well, we don't think this would necessarily cause it even in humans, but maybe it could be a cofactor if other existing things are there, such as elevated cholesterol. All right. Now, had this study said we found a correlation with high protein intakes and atherosclerosis, without talking about causation, but only correlation, they might have something. And that's where I was thinking it was going to go. Oh yeah, and but it's not going to be caused by protein. It's going to be caused by too much saturated fat in the diet, which we know raises LDL. And let's come back over to cofactors. The American Atherosclerosis Society has already discussed this. They have clearly stated in the last few years, we don't have just correlation, we have causation. We know what causes atherosclerosis in humans, the single most important variable, single most important cause. Everything else is secondary. Everything. Okay? Elevated LDL cholesterol, flat out. They're like, the data for this is supportive across the board. This is the cause. Notice I didn't say anything to do with dietary cholesterol. Again, blood work, blood. Elevated LDL, chronically elevated LDL is the actual cause of atherosclerosis. So, to even make a rodent study and then take something, well, we think this could contribute maybe, if other factors there, such as the thing that we already know causes it, that there is now consensus in the experts in that field. I did a video on that several years back when they released that statement. Okay? So anyone who tries to argue with you that, well, elevated LDL isn't necessarily bad, yes it is. Stop. Stop trying to promote whatever fad diet nonsense or whatever you're doing, just stop. This is what the best medical experts in the field have determined. So if you have someone who's a fringe doctor, they're a GP or a dentist or a chiropractor who is writing a book or making some videos telling you, no, there's different types of LDL, no. Okay, he doesn't get to counter this data with that, because the leading experts in that specialty, in that field, cardiology, atherosclerosis, all the top researchers in atherosclerosis have combined data at this point, and they're pretty dang sure that elevated LDL by itself is the primary cause. So unless you can counter their piles of data, you don't get to say, well, you know, the different types, and maybe if you eat it, it'll be okay. No, it's not going to be okay. If your diet is giving you elevated LDL cholesterol outside of the normal range, the leading experts in the world will tell you, based upon large bodies of evidence, this will cause atherosclerosis. Okay? Full stop. So we come over to this, and they're going to talk about protein with it. They're going to talk about leucine. Here and lay the issue, though. They don't have a bunch of clinical trials on humans demonstrating this. And again, the argument being, we've seen it in mice. Well, that doesn't fly, because there's lots of stuff we see in mice. All these things are looked at in rodent studies, and then we go test them later in humans. But because the nutrition world in the past has made some big mistakes that hit the headlines of, hey, in rodent studies we found this, entire fad diets and nonsense have been built off rodent studies that turned out to not be true in humans at all. Such as, again, the stuff on de novo lipogenesis, right? Okay, perfect example. It's just, again, been heavily studied. So again, this idea that this is causing it, not buying it. And again, we can argue about the benefits of animal versus plant protein. We can make a case that plant protein is probably a bit better for overall health. But lean animal proteins contributing to poor health really isn't supported by the data. It's not. And particularly if we're going to take something like this sort of cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis, of which we know what causes it in humans, and we know which factors elevate LDL, and to then say, well, maybe too much leucine, but then they're like, well, we need to study this further, because some of the experts even look at it and say, well, even if this is the case, this may not be the case with normal foods, because you're looking at this response in the bloodstream from a protein shake. Maybe let's study whey protein shakes separately and see if this contributes. You can't make a sweeping statement about protein from very small amounts of studies done on a single protein type. You have to study this with every protein type, or like 9 or 10 different types. And they need to be tested also with foods, not just shakes. Okay? We need to see, does whey do it? Does casein do it? Does beef do it? Does chicken do it? Does soy do it? Does pea do it? Does rice protein do it? See which ones even elevate the blood markers. You don't just get to say protein. Right? Just like we don't get to say fat. We don't get to say sugars. No, you have to be very specific. You have to be very specific. You can't do a study on sucrose, which is table sugar, and then say sugars. It's not how it works. You have to study each type of sugar. And so you get to say sucrose. So if you do a study like this on whey protein, and you even see this blood marker elevated, which has not been shown to be the concern in humans, only in mice so far, you can't jump over and say protein. You get to say whey protein isolate. Because you might find that pea protein or chicken protein doesn't do it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys next time.